Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on March 5th, 2013. And we're picking up right where we left off in the last episode. What we're doing in this chapter is we're working on a design and abstraction, and that's bringing in object-oriented programming and all kinds of good stuff. The impetus for this was that our test code for our client, for our WeWikiPaint drawing area, was getting way too hard to navigate around. It was just too long and I was getting lost. So what we've got here is we've factored out we've identified the DOM element as sort of a core abstraction for us. And we are starting to move more and more responsibilities out of our existing code and into this DOM element. The first thing we've moved is just the calculation of where the cursor is relative to the element. And that's super useful, and I'm glad to get that out of there. Next, what I'd like to do is continue on with that. So here we have page offset. That is using the new DOM element, but it's doing it in a kind of weird way. What I want is for that DOM element to be created up here. When we define the drawing area, then I want the DOM element to be created at the same time. So let's go ahead and do that. We will say create the DOM element there, and then say DOM element equals new wikipaint.dom element, and pass in the drawing area. That should work because we haven't done anything with it yet. Yep. And then down here, we should be able to say DOM element.pageOffset and see that work. Excellent. And now we can take out this drawing area. Let's find all uses of page offset. In fact, you know what? I think we can just, rather than taking that out, let's get this back to working again. I think we can just inline this function and get rid of it entirely. Basically, everywhere we're calling page offset, we'll just call DOM element.pageOffset. So that was our automated refactoring. Let's see if it worked. It looks like it did. Cool. Let's make sure it still works. Awesome. That worked fine. Let's do the same thing in client. We'll inline this function and get rid of, there we go. Yeah, that's looking good. Excellent, excellent. Okay, let's check that in. It's been a while, it took us a while to get this far, but I'm really happy with doing this because although one of these was in our test and the other one was in our production code, these really feel fundamental, like fundamental operations on a DOM element. We want to know where the mouse pointer is relative to the element and vice versa. If we have a spot in the element, we want to know where that is relative to the page. And that's really fundamental, and I think it's starting to clean up our code nicely. Okay, what's the next thing we can bring in? Well, I'm not sure, but one thing I notice is that we no longer need to pass this drawing area around. So let's just go ahead and take care of this low-hanging fruit. I know we don't have to pass it in because it's gray, which means it's not being used in this function. And the reason it's not being used is because now we're operating on DOM element directly. So let's make sure that worked. Ooh, it did not work. Okay, let's... Oh, well, and of course the reason that didn't work was because there's people calling this. So here where we're calling start drag and continue drag, there's an automated refactoring to remove parameters from a function, but I don't totally trust it. I've had it fail on me before. That's why I'm not using it now. There we go. That's good. Okay. I think we can consider that to be part of the last thing we did. So we'll just amend our previous commit. And let's look in here as well. we have anything similar? No, it looks like that's being used. Although, I do notice, no, that's okay. That's okay. I was going to say, I noticed that DOM element is not exactly the same as jQuery element, so that we might have been getting the wrong offset, but no, that's not actually the case. We were always doing drawing area relative to the drawing area, so that's okay here. What do we want to do next? This sort of refactoring always requires a lot of careful thought, and actually in my mind that's a good sign. When you have to sort of think carefully about what you're going to do next, that means that you are using your time wisely. It's when you are doing a lot of typing and not a lot of thinking, that to me says you're not programming as effectively as you could, that there's an abstraction you're missing because you're spending all of your time typing rather than thinking about how to eliminate that duplication, whatever it is that you're typing. Okay, what are we going to do next? What else do we have on this DOM element that we can abstract out? One thing that comes to mind is the event stuff. That's fairly complex, so I'm a little nervous about moving it over, but that may be the next thing for us to do. Yeah, let's try putting send mouse event on DOM element and see where that gets us. So I'm going to copy this over. That, of course, should work because I'm not even using it yet. Oh, well, it's got some issues. Okay, let's see if we can do it this way. This is kind of a big step, but I'm hoping we can get away with it. If not, we'll back up and try again. We should be able to ask ourselves for our offset. Okay, let's see if that lens, it's not being used yet, so I don't expect it to fail. But we do have some linting issues. Okay, that works, not surprising. But now, let's see if we can actually use it. Let's see, we need to, if we have the optional jQuery element, we need our element to be constructed from that. This is a bit ugly, but that often happens when you're refactoring. You start out with something that is ugly and then you make it better. So we'll start with our DOM element by default, and then if we have the optional jQuery element, we'll use that. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I think this optional jQuery element stuff is going to cause this to fail. Yeah. Okay, let's undo. Let's back this up, get it back working again. Yeah, okay. The reason that failed was because in our test, the offset is calculated relative to the drawing area, not the optional jQuery element. And when we refactored that, when we made that change, now the offset was being calculated relative to the element. So that's not going to work for now. I wonder, this is a bit tricky, and that's often the case when you're refactoring. I think I'm willing to accept a bit of ugliness. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Let me try playing this with this a little bit. I might be able to get it to work. What if we said, no. Well, I was thinking about passing in the page X and page Y rather than having this do the page offset here. Well, let's try it. The problem is that we've got basically two elements. We've got the page, we've got the thing that we want. Oh, this is confusing me. Okay, I'm going to take a little break and think about it and get back to you in a moment. Okay, I'm back. The fundamental issue here is that send mouse event is a little schizophrenic because it wants the X and Y relative to the drawing area, but it might operate on a different element. Rather than try to solve that right now, I think we need to punt and come back to that later. And again, this often happens when I'm refactoring. I look at something, I can't quite figure it out, so I come back to it later. Instead, let's solve the client event stuff, which is much, much simpler. And basically, let's just do this mouse down, mouse move, and mouse leave and mouse up. That is pretty much just going to be pass-through stuff. Yeah. Or maybe, what I want to do is I want to get rid of the operations in jQuery. I really want to pull out all the stuff that involves the DOM element and move it into our DOM element abstraction so that we can grow it in the future. So yeah, let's try moving these in here. I'm thinking, the reason I'm pausing is that it just doesn't seem like it does anything significant. These are really just going to be pure pass-throughs. But let's see what happens. Let's start out with mouse down. We'll call it on mouse down. And I'm wondering if this should be relative X and relative Y. So let's make a note to check into that. So on mouse down, why would it take? Actually, it doesn't need to take page X and page Y at all. It just needs to take a callback. So on mouse down is going to be exactly this. It's just going to be this.element.mouse down callback. That abstracts jQuery but uses it. That should still work. It does. But the real proof will be when we try to use it here. But of course that should work because it's basically exactly the same. Yeah, it does work. All right, let's continue on with the others. We've got mouse move, mouse leave, and mouse up. That should all work because I'm not using it yet. And that uses the new one. That uses the new one. And that uses the new one. Pretty straightforward. Let's quickly go ahead and get the rest of these in here. I'm still not sure if this is a good idea, but I want to see where this takes us. All right. That is working. Let's check it in. All right. We've moved our DOM event, or we've moved our event handlers into DOM element. I'm not sure about this code. I think it's going to be good long term, but right now it's feeling pretty iffy. But that is all the time we have for this episode. I think we're going to keep pounding on this. It will get better, but as usual, and when we're refactoring, it's going to get worse first. But that is it for this episode. I'm going to go ahead and put these last 4 episodes up online. So go ahead and give me your feedback. Let me know what you think, and we will pick up with this next time. I will see you then. Thanks for watching.